Revelation 1821. From the 20th of February 1941. Luminosity of the Sun. A still unexplored area is the luminosity of the Sun, which is probably physically perceptible to every human being and also visible to the human eye, which is taken for granted and yet has not yet found an explanation that corresponds to the truth. No matter how thoroughly and precisely people research, they will never be able to solve this problem by virtue of their human intellect. For the human being is only capable of fathoming that which is on Earth and in its vicinity, as far as it still belongs to the Earth's sphere. Beyond that, however, human research is inadequate. Man starts from natural laws which are probably the same everywhere on Earth, but which no longer control all creations outside the Earth. And thus, for the first time, the basic conditions for research into unknown works of creation would not exist. Consequently, the results cannot be perfect either, for they are based on a wrong foundation. But people are convinced of the correctness of these results of human research, although they would have to come across contradictions upon deeper reflection, provided they are believers. Either they are not deeply believing, or they do not think. And then the error cannot be explained to them either, and therefore a view is widespread among people which must be called downright wrong compared to the truth. The body of the Sun, like every other heavenly body, contains living beings on its outer surface, thus it is animate. Consequently, this body cannot be a glowing mass that constantly sends its light to the Earth. This thought can almost be called naive, for a solid body that is constantly glowing loses its solidity and would therefore also lose its form. Likewise, it must also be taken into consideration that every glowing mass requires combustible basic material. That there must therefore be some kind of matter which is seized by the fire and accordingly consumed. Everything the Sun contains would therefore have to be earthly matter, thus a basic substance which could be destroyed by fire, by an element which is likewise earthly. But if both the matter and the element cease to exist, there is no explanation for a luminous celestial body. But everything that is outside the Earth is never subject to the laws of nature that apply to the Earth. The human intellect only grasps what can be proven to it earthly with equally earthly laws of nature. But the fact that there is much in God's infinite creation for which the knowledge available to earthly people is truly insufficient will have to be acknowledged by every wise and believing person, for the Earth is only a very tiny work of creation compared to infinity. And it is understandable that the inhabitants of this Earth cannot be completely initiated into the processes and nature of every work of creation. Things which never exist on Earth, for which no parallel can be found on Earth, understandably elude the human being's intellectual knowledge. He cannot reckon with laws of nature which he does not know, which are therefore unknown to him because the conditions for them are not given. Therefore, he cannot imagine their effects either, thus he cannot make any calculations, since they would lack any basis. Nevertheless, the human being can be informed of them spiritually, he just has to believe, since nothing can be proven to him as long as he lives on Earth. However, the worldly researchers cannot prove their results either, they likewise only have to be believed, and they are believed because the human intellect is not sufficient to recognize and reject fallacies. And now a whole edifice of thoughts is built up on such a fallacy and now takes shape through established teachings. People are presented with an earthly worldly view. An assertion is made about a process which would be a very inadequate explanation for the emergence of light, of the sun's rays. And in this wrong view people live. And people now live in this wrong view and are satisfied with such an explanation. They thereby gain a false picture because the final goal of the human soul is completely unknown to them. Otherwise, however, they do not accept the enlightenment about the latter, Again, because everything is explained to them earthly, that is as a natural effect, as happens through such erroneous teachings. If the human being is believing, he hesitates to accept human wisdom, even though he cannot give himself a better explanation. But the spirit within him warns him against accepting such human teaching. Then he regards the creation outside of earth as an unsolved riddle, and that is far better than forming closed opinions about it which completely contradict the truth. For a questioner can still be given the right explanation by spiritual knowing forces. An enlightenment corresponding to truth is difficult to give to a person who already believes in knowing. And yet so much depends on the right knowledge of this. Amen.